The world of One Piece is quietly approaching its breaking point. Ancient myths, forgotten contracts, and legendary powers are converging into a single inevitable conflict where the balance of the world will finally collapse. At the center of this storm stands Loki, a figure bound by tragedy, vengeance, and a power capable of challenging even immortality, and in his shadow Blackbeard, the embodiment of chaos awaiting his moment. As the secrets of the Gorosei, the Holy Knights, and Emu begin to surface, it becomes clear that the final war will not be decided by simple heroism, but by the collision of will, destiny, and the most terrifying forces ever unleashed upon the seas. Alright, before we dive any deeper and keep this anime storytelling journey alive together, make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments so the hype doesn't die down. Now then, let's get right into the discussion. Let's roll. Right now, Oda has finally begun to peel back the curtain on one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Loki's legendary devil fruit. And interestingly, Loki is not the only one drawing attention. His hammer has also eaten a devil fruit, specifically a squirrel type. The contrast is almost ironic. Its design looks cute and harmless, yet it houses terrifying power. From this alone, one future dynamic becomes very likely. Ragnarok is almost guaranteed to develop a close connection with both Chopper and Usopp. With Chopper, the bond seems obvious. Ragnarok will most likely rely on him as a translator, given Chopper's unique nature and medical intelligence. With Usopp, however, the relationship promises far more chaos and comedy. Ragnarok will almost certainly become obsessed with Usopp's pop greens, treating them as his favorite snacks. Oda himself once mentioned that Usopp maintains his own pop green garden, which effectively makes him an unlimited food supply for Ragnarok. Even Oda's latest color spread subtly hints that this dynamic is already planned. But the most important piece of the puzzle lies in Ragnar's devil fruit itself, the squirrel fruit. This detail immediately points to a crucial figure from Norse mythology, Ratatoskr. And from here, the true nature of Loki's power finally begins to make sense. In Norse myth, Ratatoskr is a cunning squirrel that runs endlessly along Yggdrasil, the world tree. His job is not merely to deliver messages between the eagle perched at the top and the massive serpent Nidhogg gnawing at the roots. Instead, Ratatoskr deliberately twists their words, spreads hatred, and actively fuels the conflict that will one day bring about the destruction of the world tree itself. When examining the ancient mural within One Piece more closely, two familiar figures stand out, one resembling a giant eagle, the other a massive serpent. This immediately raises a critical question: who represents the eagle in One Piece? The identity of the serpent, however, is far easier to uncover. All signs point to a single name: Loki is Nidhogg. Oda has been building toward this reveal for a long time. From the very beginning, Loki has been surrounded by hints that connect him to a Nidhogg-type Zoan devil fruit. In mythology, Nidhogg is a colossal serpent dragon dwelling beneath Yggdrasil, endlessly gnawing at its roots and accelerating the collapse of the world. The parallels with Loki are striking. Loki has spent much of his life chained underground. He even turned Elbaf's hell into his personal playground. More importantly, he openly declares his desire to destroy the world, a statement that mirrors Nidhogg's role in Ragnarok itself. When the roots of Yggdrasil are destroyed, the entire world connected to it falls as well. Even Loki's snake-like eyes from birth serve as a visual foreshadowing of this destiny. The symbolism continues through Loki's tattoos. Their patterns resemble wings and scales, an extremely specific reference. In Norse legend, Nidhogg is the only serpent depicted with wings. Details this precise cannot be coincidence. The cultural meaning runs even deeper. In Viking tradition, the word Nidi represents the most severe form of social disgrace, someone condemned, cursed, and stripped of honor. This description fits Loki's standing in both Elbaf and the wider world almost perfectly. Interestingly, the original mythological Nidhogg does not wield lightning. That aspect is entirely Oda's own addition. This becomes especially meaningful in chapter 1142, where Nidhogg's name is written with kanji meaning lightning dragon. Oda first introduced Nidhogg as a lightning dragon, and only later granted Loki lightning-based abilities. The connection is clearly intentional. Even more alarming is Loki's ability to nullify Harald's regeneration, suggesting that his power does not merely affect the physical body but reaches into the soul itself. If true, Then Loki essentially becomes a monstrous fusion of Kaido's absolute dragon might and Big Mom's soul manipulation. That combination alone would make him one of the most dangerous beings in One Piece history. Pushing the implications further, Loki may be the first individual in history to truly kill an immortal holy knight. Not even Rox D. Zebek accomplished such a feat. Harald was no weak opponent, and if Loki defeated him, then his devil fruit likely possesses the power to nullify Imu's immortality as well. Rox once stated that he was hunting 2 specific devil fruits capable of overthrowing Imu and crowning him king of the world. He even intended for Harald to consume Elbaf's legendary fruit. When all the clues are assembled, it becomes extremely difficult to deny that Loki's devil fruit is one of the 2 Rox had been searching for. This is why the relationship between Rox and Loki feels far too significant to be accidental. Oda deliberately emphasizes their interactions, and even presents Rock's backstory through Loki's flashback. This alone signals that their bond is a cornerstone of the story's larger design. Most crucial of all, Loki views Rox as a heroic figure. That single detail strongly implies that their connection will play a massive role in the story's future. In Norse mythology, when Ragnarok begins, Nidhogg rises from beneath Yggdrasil and joins the giants, Jotnar, in the final war against the gods. Translating this into One Piece terms, only 2 figures realistically fit the role of Jotnar, Luffy or Blackbeard. But every narrative clue points toward one conclusion: Loki is far more likely to side with Blackbeard. The Jotnar archetype does not represent saviors. They embody chaos, destruction, and the inevitable collapse of the old world, a description that aligns perfectly with Marshall D. Teach. Luffy shakes the world in his own way, but Teach moves like an ancient giant awaiting Ragnarok, hiding his intentions, gathering power in silence, and striking only when the decisive moment arrives. An abnormal body, power that defies natural law, and the audacity to challenge fate itself. These traits mirror the essence of the Jotnar. In Norse myth, the Jotnar oppose the Aesir. In One Piece, Blackbeard stands against the world government. Their ultimate enemy is the same, Imu. The parallel between Loki and Teach only grows stronger the deeper we look. Both were shaped by legendary fathers whose lives ended in tragedy due to Imu's hidden manipulations. Rox was erased from history after being taken down by Figarland Garling, while Harald was ultimately killed by his own son in an attempt to prevent even greater suffering. Their origins mirror each other in painful symmetry. Both Loki and Blackbeard harbor an intense hatred toward the celestial dragons. Teach seeks to claim the throne of the world, while Loki desires to destroy the current world order by tearing down Imu and the system that supports him. On both mythological and narrative levels, their destinies feel deeply intertwined. If one had to choose today, the likelihood of Loki standing beside Blackbeard feels far greater than him ever joining the Straw Hats. Yet this does not make Loki a simple villain. One Piece has never operated in absolutes. Even Vegapunk admitted that he could not judge right from wrong regarding the Void Century. The same principle applies here. Though Teach stands as an antagonist from the reader's perspective, his goal of overthrowing Imu may appear entirely justified to many, especially to Loki. Loki personally witnessed the consequences of Harald aligning with the world government. His raw hatred for the Holy Knights becomes unmistakable when he confronts Shamrock and Gunko. Nothing can suppress his thirst for vengeance, not even Luffy. And most importantly, Loki does not seek rescue. He does not desire redemption. He is not lost. Loki's purpose is simple: to shatter the world government for everything they did to Harald and Elbaf. And for a goal of that magnitude, Blackbeard is the most effective and logical ally he could possibly choose. Where Oda ultimately takes the story remains to be seen, but the direction so far feels increasingly clear. If we trace the myth of Nidhogg aiding the Jotnar in their war against the gods, the parallel in One Piece becomes undeniable. Loki and Blackbeard appear destined to stand on the same side when the final battle against Imu begins. After all, Rox himself once declared that bringing down Imu would require the power of 2 devil fruits. And when the legendary fruit of Loki is paired with Blackbeard's mysterious abilities, the result feels like an almost perfect storm. In raw combat potential, Loki exists far beyond ordinary limits. He commands Elbaf's sacred devil fruit, powerful enough to defeat Harald even after Imu personally strengthened him. He wields a legendary weapon that has already consumed a devil fruit of its own, a weapon deadly even without Loki's involvement. Add to that his mastery of advanced Haushiku Haki, including Future Sight as demonstrated against Gunko, and the picture becomes terrifying. Ancient giant blood flows through his veins. His physical strength is monstrous. His eyes conceal unknown power. When these elements converge, Loki stands as one of the most overwhelmingly powerful and most carefully written characters ever introduced in the series. What makes it even more astonishing is that this entire character structure was built within roughly 25 chapters, an exceptionally fast yet effective narrative construction. And this leads to the biggest question of all. How did Shanks defeat Loki 8 years ago? Judging by Loki's current condition, his present strength far surpasses what he possessed in the past. He had 8 full years to refine his legendary devil fruit and adapt to his new weapon. And yet, Shanks still brought him down. With everything we now know about Loki, that result feels increasingly unnatural. One plausible explanation is that Loki willingly accepted the label of criminal to preserve his father's honor. His defeat at Shanks' hands may not have been a simple duel, but rather part of a deeper agreement, one meant to ensure the world would truly view Loki as a villain. Scooper Gabon and others could have sworn to keep the truth buried. It is even possible that Shanks and Gabon directly discussed Loki's future role with him, forcing Loki to remain in Elbaf until the destined moment arrived. All of this remains speculation. Yet the more one considers it, the more convincing it becomes. And frankly, the curiosity surrounding what truly happened 6 years ago now feels stronger than ever. Although the chapter centers on Loki and Harald, the presence of Shanks and Scooper Gabon quietly reveals something crucial. The greatest weakness of the Holy Knights is Haushaku Haki. In the past, the Roger pirates repeatedly managed to halt the Holy Knights whenever they attempted to take Shanks from the ship. This in itself is not shocking, as we already know that powerful conquerors' Haki can suppress their regeneration. But what truly stands out is this. The Holy Knights appear to possess no Haushaku Haki of their own. From this revelation emerge 2 major implications. First, we still lack confirmation on whether Shanks' family, Shamrock and Garling, possess Haushaku Haki. It feels almost impossible that they would not. They are clearly being positioned as critical figures in the final war, and stripping them of King's Haki would represent an extreme and illogical downgrade in their overall threat level. Shanks himself wields one of the most overwhelming forms of Haushaku Haki in the entire series, perhaps the strongest we have ever seen. If it turns out that Shanks is the only member of his family who possesses this power, it would reveal a massive secret about the true nature of Conqueror's Haki itself. At that point, the long-standing mystery of why only a handful of individuals are born with Haushaku Haki begins to make far more sense. And this leads us to the second major shock. Every single member of the Gorosei possesses Conqueror's Haki. We have already witnessed it from Mars, Nashiro, and Warcury. With that, the current situation becomes crystal clear. The Holy Knights do not have Haushaku Haki, while the Gorosei do. From here emerges a critical conclusion: the real difference between the so-called Deep Sea Contract and the Deep Sea Contract. The Deep Sea Contract appears to be granted directly by Imu to those who officially become Knights of God, providing teleportation, regeneration, immortality, and an absolute connection to Imu regardless of distance. For a long time, the contracts of the Holy Knights and the Gorosei seemed nearly identical because their abilities looked the same on the surface. But after the latest chapter, the decisive difference finally becomes clear. Haushaku Haki. The Gorosei are likely able to draw upon a portion of Imu's own Conqueror's Haki through the Deep Sea Contract, and that is the true power upgrade. The 4 Holy Knights did cause destruction in Elbaf, but objectively speaking, their achievements were not particularly impressive. Scooper Gabon sliced through Summers with ease and even suppressed his regeneration. It was also revealed that in the past, the Roger pirates repeatedly defeated the Holy Knights. Yes, they were the crew of the Pirate King, but Oda still made it very clear that Holy Knights can be pressured and injured fairly easily, even with their regeneration. Now consider the far more terrifying threat. 5 beings stronger than the Holy Knights, all of whom possess Haushaku Haki. These are the real enemies. We saw a glimpse of that reality in this chapter. Harald possessed both Haushaku Haki and regeneration. Even Shanks and Scooper Gabon were unable to defeat him. In the end, only Loki, after consuming Elbaf's legendary devil fruit, was able to bring him down. The same pattern appeared with Saturn. At Egghead, he was stabbed, struck, hurled, and cleaved, yet none of it truly harmed him. Ultimately, only Imu was capable of ending his life. And so the next great question arises. How do you defeat 5 beings like Saturn and Harald? Yes, Loki wields power capable of nullifying regeneration and immortality. But facing all 5 Gorosei alone? With all respect to Loki, that would be nearly impossible. This is where Oda's long-term design becomes apparent once again. The author will almost certainly introduce a new tier of Houshaku Haki, just as he always has. We once saw Kizaru introduce the concept of Haki. Odin wounded Kaido using layered Conqueror's Haki. Gabon required multiple Houshaku strikes to finally bring down Harald. Every major arc raises the ceiling of power, and with it, Haki itself continues to evolve. It is very likely that this chapter marks the conclusion of the flashback. And honestly, this flashback is extraordinary, among the finest Oda has ever written, perhaps even the very best. Every component feels tightly constructed. Now that we fully understand how Harald's death unfolded, it becomes impossible to deny that Oda crafted this character with exceptional care. The final exchange between father and son was deeply emotional. Harald departed with hope, trusting that Loki would protect Elbaf's future, a beautiful ending for him. Perhaps Harald was not the ideal king or the greatest politician, but watching him die that way still hurts. The same tragedy echoes in Rox. Rox lived as a free man, yet died under manipulation. Harald lived under manipulation, yet died as a free man. Two sides of the same coin, divided only by fate. Vav. That's amazing. Big thanks to everyone who stayed all the way to the end. If anything's on your mind or you've got questions, drop them in the comments below. Appreciate you for watching, and catch you in the next videos.